Hi everybody, it's Christine here, and I am so excited and honored that I was asked to rejoin the Graphic 45 Brand Ambassador team for 2025-2026. And as my introductory project, I have created this little mini album for you, and I'm going to show you in the tutorial how to make the cover and then the pages on the inside. Now I am using the beautiful new Graphic 45 Fairy Boutique collection. I absolutely love these papers. They are so pretty, and I think this might actually be my new favorite collection of all time. So I chose to use it as my introductory project. Stay tuned for the tutorial where I will show you how to make the cover and the pages, and then don't forget to check out the supply list that will be provided for you for the project. For my cover, I'm going to be using the laser cut chipboard cover I have available on my website. But if you are not using this cover, you can cut your own cover. So you're going to have a front cover, a back cover, and then the main spine for your album. And you can leave it as just that, or you can add the wrap section. And if you're not using my cover, you would cut your second spine, and then you could cut this piece as another piece that was just another rectangle, or you could just draw a curved piece and then use your scissors to cut to mimic this same look for your cover. Now, all of the dimensions for these pieces are in the written tutorial on the Graphic 45 blog. I have my connector pieces here. I have 8 of these, and these measure 1 1/8 inch by 7 inches, and I have them scored at 1/2 and 5/8 of an inch so that I have this 1/8 inch gap in the middle. That's the gap that I'm going to be putting between my pieces as well, so that the cover doesn't crack whenever it bends and folds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be placing one of these pieces on the underside on each of these sections, and I'm going to line up the edge of my chipboard with the first score line. And then I'm going to add my adhesive here, not in that 1/8 inch gap, and then I'm going to line up the edge of the spine with my second score line. And once I have all of the ones on the inside, I'm going to take my pieces on the outside and I'm going to cover those gaps the same way so that that 1/8 inch section lands in this gap between my pieces. Once I have all of my connector pieces on my cover, I'm going to go ahead and use my bone folder to bend up on each of these pieces, just making sure that I crease this paper down into those folds. And now I have my cover for my little book. Next, I'm going to be making the base pages, and I'm using my 8.5 by 11 patterns and solids. I've taken one of each of the 8 designs, and I've cut my pieces to 8.5 by 6 3/4. Now I've already prepared the first 4. I'm going to show you how to prepare the other ones. They're all prepared the same way. So they are going to go like this. So we have an 1/8 inch gap here. This is actually going to be glued into the spine. So we're going to have 8 little signatures basically whenever we complete our book. Now these papers, because they're cut to 8.5, one piece is going to be 4 1/8, and the back piece is going to be 4 1/4. I'm going to be putting a piece of lace trim down this edge, so that's why the front side is going to be the smaller side to accommodate for that 1/8 inch on my spine. Now I'm taking my paper and making sure that the paper itself is in the correct orientation. I'll come back to that in a minute whenever I come to the one that has the text on it. For now, this one, it doesn't matter. It is at 8.5 inches. I'm going to score this at 4 1/4 and 4 3/8. Now for the next one, I have my green leaf paper. I have it on the solid side because I'm alternating every other one. So this one again is going to be scored at 4 1/4 and 4 3/8. Now for this one, it has that pattern paper on it that has the text, so I want to make sure that this side is the smaller side. Now my scoring board goes this direction, starting from 1 to 12. If yours starts 1 to 12 here, you just need to make sure you pay attention to the orientation. I'm going to score this at 4 1/4, like I did on my other pieces. If your scoring board is like mine and it goes from the right to the left, you're going to score at 4 1/8. If your scoring board starts on the left and goes to the right, you're going to score at 4 1/4 and 4 3/8. Then I have my pink paper, and on the back side of this, or the solid side of this, I am going to score at 4 1/4 and 4 3/8. And now I'm going to take all of these papers and I'm going to fold on both of these score lines. I have each of my little pages here that are scored. So when they're all together like this, these 8 pieces are going to be adhered to the spine section, and that's how it's going to be held into my book. But I am going to start now applying my lace. So I'm going to be applying it to the right edge on the front of each of these, so the shorter edge. But I'm going to open it up like this to make it a little bit easier for me to place it. I've already cut my piece of lace. It is 6 3/4 of an inch long. And I'm just going to apply my adhesive right down this edge of the page. I'm using Fabric Fusion. I normally use Fabri-Tac for my laces, but I don't have any, so I've been using this Fabric Fusion and it seems like it's been working okay. My lace is a flat lace, so it's not going to add a ton of bulk to my pages. Ruffled lace has a little bit more bulk to it, so you have to be careful what type of lace you choose. And I'm just applying this right to the edge of my page, and it is trying to curl up on me just because of the way my lace was stored. So I'm going to take my time here and make sure that this is on here straight, and I'm going to do this to all 8 of my pages. We'll be starting to decorate the cover on the outside. I'm using the 8x8 woodland frocks, and I have, this was a 8-inch sheet. I've cut from the bottom. This is 6 3/4 by 4 7/8. I'm going to open my cover up this way. Now this piece is going to go here on the back cover. Now the rest of that piece, I've cut this one to 1 1/8 of an inch by 6 3/4. It's going to go here, and this one is 1 1/2 by 6 3/4, and it's going to go here. Then this piece was at the top, so I've cut this to 1 1/4 by 6 3/4, and it's going to go here on this spine section. But first I'm going to need to cut the curve on this piece. So how I'm going to do that, I'm going to put my paper on my piece. If you have a grid mat on your desk, this works really easily. I usually have a glass cutting mat on my desk, but I've switched it to the Graphic 45 silicone mat to try it out and see how I like it. So I don't have the grid right now, but if you have the grid, you'll line this piece up on that grid so that it's straight, and then you're going to make sure that there's 1/8 of an inch on top and bottom, and then this curve is going to be right at the left side. And then you'll just take a pencil and trace along this curve, and then take scissors and cut this out for this piece here. Once these pieces are on my cover, I am going to fold it like this, and I have this chipboard piece here. I'm going to be placing her up here toward the top. Now I have this piece cut. We'll come back to this in just a minute so I know where I'm going to be placing this. I'm not putting it on yet, and I'm not putting this paper on because I'm going to put a magnetic closure on her. But I want her to be like this at the top of my cover. So once I have her in place here, I'm going to just trace around her in a couple of places so that I know where she sits on the cover. And it doesn't have to be the whole piece that I need to trace around, just part of it. And then I need to keep her on here. And I'm going to flip over and draw a line where that is, so I know I need to be placing my magnets here. Now I've got these thick neodymium magnets. They're small, but they're thicker, and I'm going to add both of these one at a time. I'm going to put 2 of them on so that this closes really well. So those are going to go about here, and then I'm going to take a piece of white cardstock and I'm going to adhere this piece to my white cardstock, and then I'm going to fussy cut around her. Now that my piece is backed with my cardstock, I'm going to bring it back here and place it back on my cover like this one more time, and then I am going to redraw this line so that I know where to place my adhesive. Now I'm just going to add my adhesive here. And then set this back down. Once that piece is on, I'm going to add my magnets to the back side, and then I'm going to be placing the magnets on the front cover here next. Now my magnets have double-sided tape on the back. I'm going to line up my cover so everything is straight, and then I'm going to press that down. And I should be able to carefully pull those apart. And now these are stuck down. I'll go ahead and cover my front cover with a piece of this paper that I've cut to, it's Woodland Sprites on the B side. I've cut to 4 7/8 by 6 3/4 that I will put here to cover those magnets. Now I'm taking this card, it's from the 8x8 Sprinkle a Little Magic, and I've just taken a piece of white cardstock here and backed it. My cardstock is 4 1/4 by 2 7/8 of an inch. Just to help it stand out a little bit from that pink paper, I'm backing it on that white. And I've contemplated adding a layer of the purple or the green paper, but I think I'm just going to leave it like this, then I'm going to add some additional embellishments. Now I am going to push this card up all the way as far as I can get it to go, but I don't want it to go into that magnet, so I'm just pushing it up till it meets that edge. Now I'm going to open this, and then I'm going to center this so that it is centered from left to right. And I'm going to adhere this piece down here. Now I have a piece of that lace that I put on the edges of my page. For the inside, I've cut one piece to 4 1/4 inches, and I'm going to adhere this down to the bottom edge of my card like this. I'm going to be taking a couple more of my chipboard pieces to add to my cover. I have Hello Friend that I'm going to put up here. I'm going to tuck it slightly under her like this. Then I've got the little green dress. I just think these dresses are so adorable. I love this paper collection. And I'm going to overlap this here on this corner, and then I've got the little fairy shoes. and I'm going to overlap the dress here. Now for the fairy shoes, I am going to add some chipboard that I have, just some pieces of chipboard up underneath of here so that this will lay flat so that it doesn't bend. Once my chipboard pieces are on my front cover, I'm going to open up and cover the inside. I'm using Pixie Town, and this piece is 4 7/8 by 6 3/4. I'll be placing it here on the inside front cover. I'm not putting anything on this spine because those pieces, the pages, are going to cover that, so I'm going to leave that blank. From the second sheet of Pixie Town, I've cut another piece to 4 7/8 by 6 3/4, and I started on the left-hand side of the page because I'm going to make this a continuous pattern here, so the whole entire piece just lines up. This is going to be 1 1/2 by 6 3/4. And then I've cut this one to 1 1/4 by 6 3/4, but I need to trim that edge. And now I have this piece here, so unfortunately it's not going to be quite as easy to trim as on my front cover. Could also, instead of doing it this direction, and I might actually do it this way, is put this in place here first. And maybe I will use, I have this tape runner that will allow this piece to be removable. So I can stick it here where it needs to go, and that'll hold it in place. Perfect. Then I can take this and this off, just so that I can set this flat. And now I'm going to come over here on this side, and then I'll trace this as best I can. And when I remove this, I will have to continue that curve, and hopefully I can get this to line up pretty well. And if you're concerned about doing this piece, I would say cut it larger than you think it needs to be first, then you can always trim it. So let's see how my piece lines up when I place it on here. And my curve looks pretty good. So if I put it on here, it's pretty good that way. I might need to trim a little tiny sliver off of this side. Yep, just so that I have a border here. So I'm going to trim maybe 1/8 of an inch, slightly less, off of the straight side. So this is what my piece looks like when I have it cut correctly. I'm going to go ahead and adhere all of these pieces on, then we'll come into the inside pages. Since the spine section is 1 1/2, my pages are only going to be 1 inch. I need to mark where I need to start and end my pages. I have my centering ruler here on my spine, and I'm going to mark 1/2 inch from center, and I'm going to do this at the top and the bottom, and then I'm going to draw a line just so that I know where I need to place that first, and hopefully it will line up correctly with the last page. So I'm just going to do a faint line here and a faint line here. Bringing all of my pages in. They should fit between those two lines, and mine do, so I am good to go. Now I'm going to start with my first page. I've got this 1/8 inch section here. I'm going to apply my adhesive just to that section, being very careful that I don't get it over the edge on either side. Going to smooth out my adhesive here just so that it doesn't get on pages. Making sure that my lace is on the left. I'm going to set this page in here on that line that I drew, making sure that it is centered top and bottom. And then I'm going to very carefully open that page and press it down. I'm going to then take my second page and apply my adhesive, and then I'm going to place it here like this, and I'm going to work through all 8 of my pages. Now that all of my pages are in my album, it is time to get started on the fun part, and that is adding things to my pages. So a quick note about this: the more chunky your embellishments are or your features are, you want to put them on the insides of your pages and leave the outsides a little bit flatter, just because there isn't space really between these pages or between each of these signatures for the chunkier embellishments. They will start to stick out. But if we look like this, there is still plenty of room to add things in here. So we do have some room to add a little bit of chunkier embellishments if we want to add something else. So I am going to go ahead and start adding some different pieces in. I might be using my Graphic 45 dies or some other pieces. And once I'm finished, I will come back and I will do a flip through of my pages so you can see what I have done. But this is your opportunity to just go ahead and have fun and make any types of pieces you want. I hope you have found the album base and cover tutorial to be helpful. I am going to just flip through my completed little album so you can get some inspiration and some ideas for how to decorate yours if you are making one similar. Now I did add things from the stickers and from the rub-ons throughout my album, just to add some additional decoration, but to still keep it flat, because again, I have those little tiny spaces, but I don't have a lot of room. And then I just left things plain for journaling or for photo spots. And I think it really highlights the different papers, but also allows for this to be a usable album, or it could be used as a journal. All of these do pull out. I'm not going to pull every one of them out, but they do have coordinating with the patterns. Typically, this one does not, but typically they're coordinated with the patterns on the paper on the opposite page. I thought this was cute. I cut those cards apart and made little doors and then just left the lace on the one side so it hid that little space between them. I like the rub-ons. I think it gives it a little bit of a different look where I can still use that solid paper, but it doesn't seem quite so plain. And each page has, or each signature has a journaling card, and then there are little mats, and there's definitely room that other things can be tucked in. So whether that's photos, ticket stubs, memorabilia, that sort of thing. I just love these rub-ons here. I thought that was cute. Tried to use as many of the stickers as I could. I tend to have a hard time with stickers just because they are flat and I tend to like dimension. So that was one of my goals, was to use a lot of the stickers in here. And I think it really helped to add some additional embellishment to my elements. So this is it for my first brand ambassador project, and I hope you have found this tutorial helpful just for creating the album cover and then those little base pages inside. If you are going to be using this idea, I would love to hear what collection you plan on using. Thank you so much to Graphic 45 for asking me to be part of the Brand Ambassador team again. And thank you to everyone for watching.